Okay. So I noticed that this game is turn-based as well, and you're talking about the companions and a team that we can put together as well. You've mentioned perks, you've mentioned statistics as well. So I wanted to ask you, with these certain perks and statistics, how can these affect our team, and as well as do certain stats affect equipment that we can use, such as like statistical limit until you may use a certain item?
Yeah, that's exactly how it works actually. So each character has a skill set they start with, which basically determines what kind of equipment they can use. So you might have someone that can, use an assault rifle, and they got grenades as like a secondary skill they can use. And then with time, you can unlock more skills that allow them to use different items that they can use in their battles, And then in addition to that, there's like, when it comes to the events that you go to, there's cards that only unlock if a character has certain skills. So for example, there's like a medical expert, and once you have that perk, then you can do certain options in the events that you couldn't do otherwise. So, there might be the opportunity to like
healing bonuses potentially, or any sort of bonuses that will affect yourself or the team.
Yeah, or like you might encounter like one event is, for example, where you encounter like a hurt camel, and you can like that option to actually help the camel only shows up if you have a character with the perk medical expert.
Wow,
right?
That's cool.
So it kind of gives like a branching of the storyline depending on what skills your characters have.
Now, do these characters that we have as well offer a skill tree?
Yes.
And then I imagine can we progress in our own choosing through the skill tree?
Yes.
Can you elaborate any more on that?
So each level up, you get to pick a new skill that you can pick, and each character has their own unique skill tree that you can pick from, and so
you can have like custom builds based on like.
So you can kind of be like, okay, well, I actually want to take this character more into an offensive role where you're like, okay, I want him to be really upfront and get great at knives, and you can specialize in that. Or you can say, well, okay, this guy's actually going to be more just a traditional explorer that is not really all that skilled in battles, but then he knows ancient languages, he knows those kind of things, and then he's more helpful on the exploration side of things, where like with magic, like with the medical stuff, you unlock more options to what you can do.
And potentially finding hidden treasures based on their skills and perks. That makes a ton of sense. Oh, why did I just open that? So I guess I've already covered that. We've already covered the main story as well. I noticed the leveling system. We've already actually asked that. You covered actually 4 of my questions in one.
Sorry.
You've done a fantastic. I had a lot of awesome questions for this. So the game offers a wide variety of items. Are there different rarities in the items? Because I noticed that with the items, as you hover over them, they'll have different damage indicators, different amount of statistics and bonuses and perks that apply to the player as well. I also noticed this with life skilling items as well, such as like, I see that this guy has a weapon skill, but I've noticed that some people have like a fishing icon and stuff like that for potential life skilling. So I wanted to know if there are different rarities in various items, from combat to potential life skilling as well. And is there a system in the game to also upgrade what you have?
Yes, I can answer that first. There is no upgrade system to upgrade weapons. There's not. There's no crafting in the game as such.
So no crafting ammunition?
No. But there are like a big variety of items, and they have different rarity levels. Sort of what you expect, from going from common to rare to epic to legendary. And with that, obviously increase their value, and also their just like the kind of stuff they do. So a legendary item will have a lot more to offer in terms of how it changes your character's damage potential, or some sort of special. You might like a legendary item might boost your agility or something like that. Whereas like a common item is just kind of whatever standard weapon you find.
Are there the potential to find special items that also benefit a character's perks? So as we mentioned, finding a camel that might need to be healed based on a certain perk, are there items that may also help an adventurer with those perks and added levels that might be needed?
Yeah, it's not in the game, but it's a really good idea. I like that.
Oh no! I spent so much time writing these questions.
If the game is delayed, it's your fault now.
I better hold off on the next 6 questions I have for you then.
But it's actually a neat idea where like the items could influence the perks, but it's not in the game right now. No.
So let's talk about the 16-bit art style that you guys have in this game.
Yeah.
And I wanted to talk about the motivation that you guys had with the art style that you're currently using. So what was some of the motivations behind what we see right now?
Yeah, so we obviously are big fans of pixel art, as you can tell, and we always kind of wanted to take pixel art and make it modern. It's kind of been our idea from the beginning, take something that we remember from our old school games, but put it in a kind of more modern framework and make it more, like, I guess, applicable to modern crowds. And so that's what we tried to do here. So, you know, things like taking pixel art and adding dynamic lighting, and which just makes it a lot more dynamic compared to what I guess you see most of the time when it comes to pixel art.
I completely agree.
Yeah, so we spent a lot of time getting that stuff right, and I mean, I'm pretty pumped the way it turned out, so yeah.
You see, for me, like growing up, I loved playing in arcades, and for me, like Metal Slug was it was one of my favorite games growing up, and I get such a and I love the art style of that game. I get such a unique, nostalgic feel when I watch this game that brings me back to like those times as well.
Yeah.
Now I noticed this game is also turn-based.
Yeah.
And there are different strategies in combat for maneuvering and outwitting your opponents. Can we go more into that as well, and the motivation for the combat system?
Yeah, for sure. Anything specific that you're interested in?
Well, I wanted so why turn-based, first of all, I guess, and then what is the reasoning for the turn-based combat for one? I want to work into it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, turn-based combat it's very simple. We just love it. So that's the easy answer there. Just we really enjoyed turn-based combat. Chicken Alliance was a game that was really big for us growing up. Not sure if you've played it. And then XCOM obviously was another big game for us. And you know, Final Fantasy Tactics, all those kind of classic turn-based games. Really, we just always loved them. So we're like, hey, let's make a turn-based strategy game. And our first game actually was already a turn-based strategy game, right? So we're just kind of like, let's take what we learned there and make it
even better.
Even better, right? Yeah, because you can't really, like, I mean, it takes time kind of perfecting some of those mechanics, and we feel like what we've done in this game is really taken our first game and, you know, we've taken the lessons, like we learned our lessons and applying it. It's like, all right, let's go hard on this and really make it good.
Now, are there a limited amount of resources that a player has access to while in combat? Because I noticed that some players have guns and some players use ammunition. If I'm to run out of ammunition, what are my options? Am I then rendered useless, or can I go into melee combat?
Yeah, so you can use knives. There are knife options which don't use ammo, but besides that, there's a limit of ammo, but it's not a hard limit. Like, it just means you have to reload your weapon and then you can keep going. But there are resources that is a hard limit, such as medkits or grenades, where it's just once you're out, and you have to go find them again afterwards at a trader. And
right now we're just watching some of the combat right now, and I'm noticing that with one of the moves that we just seen too, we have AoEs of certain spread with the gunfire that he just did right there as well.
Yeah.
So I imagine there's a wide variety of weapons, moves, as well as different strategies to outwitting opponents. What are some weapons and items that we may potentially see in the game that you can give to us?
Yeah, so each weapon has its unique ability. Let's put it this way: each weapon you use or that you equip with a character gives him a unique ability. So if you have an assault rifle, he's got the ability Burst Fire, which is what you just saw. Basically, it allows him to like have a spread,
a standard ability, special ability based on the item you're using.
Exactly.
Oh, I like that.
So our system isn't just based on a character, but it's also what equipment you use determines what kind of strategies you can use with each character. And like, for example, a pistol's got an ability, it's called Double Shot, which allows you to target 2 enemies at once. A knife can do a bleed, which does damage to consecutive turns. that's kind of how we do a lot of the items. Is they all give you their unique ability. The same for armors actually. So armors, depending on what kind of armor the character wears,
depending on what kind of resistance you may have to also certain weapon types as well,
certain abilities as well. So if you have a light armor, for example, you can do a sprint. So you can go further with than a standard move, but if you have a
heavy armor, limited amount of movement space as well.
Yeah, but you get a different special ability in return, right? You can do like a hunker down, which will protect your guy. So he's meant to be kind of like the tank. The tank, exactly right. Yeah.
That's really unique, and I love the idea of being able to strategize with different builds, leveling up different characters in different ways. Because it sounds like there's well more than one way to strategize and set up the teams and a firing squad.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the big things we wanted to make sure is that the characters have the ability to be skilled differently, so that if you're like, oh, I don't like the way this character feels, you have the opportunity to like change it by using different equipment.
No one's adventure is going to be the same.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, as well as we're talking about no adventure is going to be the same, do we have the ability to follow our own path, or do we follow a storyline?
There's a goal for each adventure, right?
Yes.
So there's basically like, this is what you're gonna do, and then beyond that, the path you choose to get there is of course your choice. So you can go whichever way you want. There's certain choke points that usually you got to get through, but generally you can pick your own path. And yeah, there's freedom there completely what you want to do and how you want to do it.
That's awesome. Now, is there anything else that you would like to talk about the game that you may have felt that I may have missed?
There is a lot to talk about, but I mean...
What can you talk about?
Yeah, right. So, I mean, one thing I always find interesting seeing people kind of realizing that it's different is how we do RNG in the game. Because that's something that a lot of people that play XCOM get frustrated with, is the randomness, where like you can stand next to a unit and you have like a 98% hit chance, you still miss them, right? Super frustrating. So we try to address this here in a way that I think is quite elegant, which is basically, if you are exposed and open on a field, you got a guaranteed shot, right? So if you have like an enemy that is on an open tile,
clear line of sight,
you got a straight shot 100% no matter what. But if you're behind cover, that's where RNG comes in. So as soon as you go behind cover, you got maybe a 50% hit chance or a 75% hit chance. And I feel like that is a really kind of neat, twist on that system, where
cleaning up the ability where like I'm right in front of this guy, there's no way I should miss,
exactly,
and
right.
Sealing the deal to give players that reassurance that you're not going to face RNG when you are dealing with that kind of moment in game.
And it makes flanking a really interesting strategy, right? It's like the game becomes a lot about how do you position your units and like to make sure you can optimize on that guaranteed hit, right? Because if you obviously can sneak around and then shoot him in the side, you got a guaranteed hit, or you can shoot him at the cover, but you stay covered and might not expose yourself. So it's kind of that dynamic where you got to figure out what's best for your strategy.
I love it. That sounds very exciting as well. So let's make sure we get a link dropped off to all social media accounts. Twitter. When is do we have an expected release date for Pathway?
Oh, that's the question, isn't it?
Well, you don't have to answer this, but I do like to ask if you have maybe a goal, an ETA, what you're trying to push for. You don't have to answer that, but I will ask that.
Yeah, no, it's fair enough. I can't say a release date, but look, on our Steam page it says 2018, so that's just going to be my official answer for now.
Okay. Stay tuned to all social media pages. 2018 coming up as well. Stefan, it's been a pleasure to have you here as well. Thank you so much for coming here, being part of this as well. Thank you for bringing your game to talk about with us and offer with us as well. Yeah, your presence here is beyond appreciated.
Thanks so much, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, make sure you don't go anywhere because we got more coming up. Just after this, we're going to be speaking to Twitch Prime Official. So make sure you guys stick around because we are going to grill them.